so today we are going to draw lavender. I have actually sketched this out in pencil first. So I always do this before I do a pen drawing. I just like to know what I'm doing and where things are going. So I do like to draw things out before I start. Hello.
And if we haven't met, my name is Georgie. I'm an artist, I'm a facilitator and a productivity coach, and I'm here to inspire you to bring more creativity into your life too.
What I've done is I've looked at these lavenders. These are just at the point of they're about to fully flower, but some of the flowers have already come out. So I've captured that in this drawing. So you've got the little unopened flowers, and then you've got a few here that have burst into life and looking rather lovely. So these are two different types of lavender. I didn't realise until recently that you could get white lavender, which is rather lovely. So yeah, I have used those as my reference images. Again, when I draw, I tend to try and capture the essence of the lavender rather than trying to create a absolute replica of the flower. I'm not looking for a perfect representation. I'm trying to create a feeling of the lavender. As I say, capture the essence of the lavender and its shape as it's now starting to bloom into life, which the bees are absolutely adoring. I'll be using this lavender for one of my collages at some point. I tend to draw the flowers seasonally as they come out, as they inspire me, and then I will use them later on in the year. I haven't got anything in mind for this at the moment. I just absolutely adore lavender, so I thought, oh, I have to draw this. Today I will be using the Tom's Studio Lumos pen. I'll be drawing in with that. I'll be drawing the outline with that. I use the 0.1 nib. So I'll draw with that first. I've made the pencil outline for the lavender using the Tom's Studio mechanical pencil. It's my favourite pencil. And then I will add the shading using the Micron 003 nib, because I like a really fine nib, because I like to build up the shading as I go, rather than a lot of pen and ink. You will see people doing lines and that creates the shading. It's lovely, I love that too, but for me, I personally like to build the layers up, so you'll see me doing that too. And then perhaps later on I'll be adding colour as well. So let's go. All right, so the first thing I do is I ink in the outline of the flowers really lightly using the Tom's Studio Lumos pen. I will try and talk as I do this to explain what I'm doing, but I might be a bit slow if you're watching this as a longer video. Probably post this as a short as well, sped up version if you want something quick. But if you like watching the drawing come together nice and slowly, then yeah, you can watch it as a longer form video as well. So I'm just filling those in there. As I say, I drew this out earlier using the Tom's Studio mechanical pencil. I like to plan my drawings before I ink them in, because I guess I'm just a bit of a perfectionist, and when I draw I'm really trying to capture the essence of something, so it's not just as simple as quickly sketching it out. And to be honest, I just really like the drawing out in pencil part, if I'm honest, as well. I find that really meditative, where I just sit there and sketch it out. So that's an important part for me. The actual pencil part, the pencil drawing part, which I may share at some point on this channel, because you'll see there's a lot of experimenting and working out and rubbing things away and putting them back. All right, there we go. That's the flower head on that one. And then I'll do the second flower. I don't know why, but I always tend to work from left to right when I draw. I don't know why. I always start on the left side. It would make a lot more sense, since I'm right-handed, to start on the... Sorry, I work from right to left. See, trying to draw and talk at the same time. So I normally draw from right to left, and it would make more sense if I drew from left to right, because then I wouldn't be in danger of smudging my work. But these pens are great, actually. They dry almost instantly, so there isn't that danger, and I just have to draw as I feel, as it feels right to me. So, you know, you've got to go with what feels right at the end of the day when you're drawing. You can learn all the technique in the world, do all the tutorials, but as you practice and draw more, you'll find your way of doing things that will probably go against all the advices sometimes. But if you're happy with the outcome, and if it works for you, like drawing from right to left works for my brain, then so be it. Go for it. Okay, there we go. So I've drawn the outline of the heads. Next thing I'll do is draw in the stalks of the lavender very carefully. Do the leaves, these really thin stalky leaves. I think that's what I'd call them, stalky. They're quite stiff, the leaves of lavender. There we go. Do this one. Sometimes with leaves and straight lines, you'll find your way, but sometimes you've just got to be quick. If you overthink it or try to go too slowly, I've found you end up getting a wobbly line. So you have to commit. You literally have to start and just go for it. And if you're using pencil lines as a guide, you may not end up following the pencil line completely. But as I say, that is a guide. You might want to add and take away as you go. You've got to really just work it out as you go and let your intuition guide you as to what feels right. All right, so now onto the shading. And for this I have the Micron pen. Leave a tiny, tiny little gap at the bottom, because I notice that some of them Well, a lot of them actually, a lot of the lavender at the bottom, it's actually got this little bit of, which is lighter shade. And then these little flowers literally give them just the lightest touch of shade. So the difference with my pen and ink or fine liner technique is I use the smallest, tiniest of lines using a 0.3 nib to build up the shading. I'm actually going to get a bit of paper because it's a hot day today and I'm feeling very hot and sticky and I don't want my hand sticking to the paper and making marks, so I've just got a little bit of paper here. Tiniest of marks on the flowers, they really don't need a lot. Just adding a bit of the stalk in there. And then this is what we do probably for the next 10 minutes or so. So for that I will probably put this onto time lapse and speed it up. If you'd like to see it in the real time, let me know. Maybe I should start pasting the real-time videos if we've got the attention span for that. I guess you can always fast forward. So by doing that little bit of shading at the top and leaving a gap in the middle, it creates that depth, 3D. So the light is just catching it in the middle, and then the shadow is just receding the bud into the background. And just keep going. And hope my storage on my camera doesn't run out. Because this is such a long process, it could take a while. It will take a while. But I find it really relaxing. Sometimes I'll do this in silence. Sometimes I listen to a podcast. Just depends how I feel, really. Be really careful not to overdo these flowers, because I will be adding colour to this afterwards, so they really don't need a lot. I use polychromos pencils for this. Some people will use watercolour or gouache, whatever you're into. I absolutely adore polychromos pencils at the moment. It's funny, the smaller the marks I'm making, the more I want to speak quietly. There we go, it's getting there now. Okay. Oh, I missed that flower. I'm actually thinking these flowers barely need anything just to make them stand out. They don't need much shading at all, in fact. Alright, so the next thing I need to do is I want to rub out the lines, because that gives me an idea of what still needs to be added or done, because obviously the lines of the pencil are darkening the drawing, so I can't see the true shading. Oh, I can see some bits I've missed as well. Alright, so I need to go back in. Okay, there's a couple of bits there that I missed. There it is. And then what I'm doing now is I'm going to darken up some of these petals or flower buds of the lavender, just to make some sit behind, throw some back, throw some forward, again to get that sense of perspective. Sending things backwards and forwards by adding more shading. But I'm going to leave the flowers fairly under shaded. I'll probably use colour to bring those out a bit more. Probably haven't left as much of a white space gap at the bottom of the buds as I'd intended at the beginning, but that's how it's worked out on this occasion. Maybe when I go over to that one. I'm drawing from two different types of lavender as well, so if they both look slightly different, doesn't matter, does it? As always as well, when I'm shading using a fine liner, I'm actually using a pen that's quite well worn in. If it's too new, it's too black and I can't build the shading up. So this pen here I've been using for other projects where I've been using it to blacken areas in, so it's really well used, which enables me to build the shading up slowly. Nice. Okay, there now. Okay. Yeah, pretty happy with that so far. There's some little bits and bobs that could probably do with bringing out a little bit, like these flowery bits. Working those in a little bit. There we are. I think it's looking like lavender. All right, so I'm going to move on to this one now. Okay, so I've done the flowers and now I am going to fill in the stalks. I'm not going to do too much on these. Let me just rub out the bits of eraser, bits of rubber that I was erasing earlier. So I'm not going to do too much on these stalks. It doesn't need too much because the main body of action, as it were, is around the flower. So I don't want to draw too much attention to these stalks. So I'm really not going to do too much to these or the leaves of the lavender either. Again, doesn't need too much. I might even just, for now, I might even just leave them as an outline. Give them that little vein that goes through them, which is probably enough. I always like to break my lines up rather than do a solid line. Really doesn't need much at all. I always imagine my light source is coming in from this direction, so I'll always have a slightly heavier line on the left because that's where a shadow would be. Very loosely. And what I'll do after this anyway is I will walk away from this drawing and then have a break, and then I'll come back to it, because that helps me see what it needs by having fresh eyes. So in order to do that, I need to walk away for a little while. Going really light down here because this really isn't part of the main show. The main show's up here. So we don't need to do much here. It's just a suggestion really of the drawing. I quite like that sort of sketchy finish at the end as well, to finish it off. I might just give that a little bit extra there, because that's where they're crossing over. So I might just give that a little bit. These bits here where the leaves and the stalks are crossing over, just give those a little bit more shading. And this one needs thickening up a little bit. And you're seeing here that, you know, there's bits where I'm going, oh, that's not quite right. But one of the reasons I decided to start drawing using pen and not pencil, and doing this kind of shading technique, is because I absolutely have to work with the quote-unquote mistakes. So it's really important that if I do make a mistake, I think, okay, I'm all right with that. I'm just going to try and make that work as best I can. And I'm pretty happy with where that's going now, actually. Adding a little bit more shading, just to blend it all in really. Just needs a little light touch of shading here and there, just to bring things forward and send things back, to give a sense of 3D. A sense of 3D, as I say, I'm not trying to create the perfect rendition of lavender. I blooming love lavender. It's one of my favourite plants, and I just like spending time looking at it, drawing it, observing it, knowing it better. Made a mistake and jobbed myself, but that's okay. I'm blending, gonna blend that in, styling it out. Styling out the mistakes. That's what we have to do in life. I just think making art is a really good analogy for life. You work with what you've got. You work within your limits. This is where I can, in my brain I'm saying, right, Georgie, stop. Stop now. That's enough. It's almost time to stop and walk away, and then come back to it, see what it needs. So literally going to make a few more lines. Just to bring that back slightly there. Oh, that's so nearly there, that bit. Georgie, stop. I need to stop. I'm just going to fix that one there. You see me arguing with myself in real time here. There we go. Okay, nearly there. This is hilarious, isn't it? Straighten that up a bit. Okay, done. Finished. Time to walk away. Time to walk away.
Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you like this style of video, and I will see you soon. I will be showing you the next stage of progress. See you soon.